What is the biggest load of bulls you have ever been told? We're only going to one store, my mom. Wait here, I'll only be a couple of minutes. Well, I had an ex that cheated on me, but in her words it wasn't actually the physically intimacy part because she didn't look at them during. Obviously that cleared everything up. I also had a different ex that told me she had learned that sperm has negative calories, so it's like extra healthy. You should have married that second girl. My roommate keeps trying to stop me from cleaning up after his dog shoots on my carpet. He says you have to let it dry and harden to make it clean up better. He's a cool dude, but that's why his floor of the house is so freaking gross. He really needs to fix whatever is wrong with his dog if it's 1, regularly crapping in the house, and 2, regularly having shoots loose enough that they're easier to clean after they dry up. I forgot that I cheated on you more than once. My brother owns a hovercraft ranch, an ex-friend, a hovercraft ranch. The little baby hoverboards are adorable. That my crazy ex was pregnant, been with her for about 2 months. She started becoming very suspicious of me, and I found out she was going through my phone, probably while I was asleep, because I didn't have a passcode on it. She would read my conversations, and finally when she thought she had some dirt on me, she hit me with, "Well, who's Rebecca and why are you planning to meet with her?" I responded, "If you'd read more of the conversation you'd see that I was planning on having lunch with her and her fiancé. If I was cheating on you, don't you think I'd at least have a passcode on my phone? But you know what? We should slow down." Fast forward a week and she shows me her sonogram. I know it wasn't hers, but all of a sudden she's pregnant. I decide to go along with it, so I change my tone and become super supportive and involved. Told her I wanted to go with her to the first appointment. She told me I didn't have to go and her mom would go with her. Waited it out and another week or so passes by and she lost the baby. I tell her she needs to get the frick out of here and I'm done. Makes for an interesting story. A kid told me he was playing Mortal Kombat on his Game Boy and a lightning bolt struck his Game Boy while he was playing, and he was then able to play as the dragon that's on the box art. GTFOH. That's the most 90s lie I've ever heard. Dinner is ready. You'll receive your full deposit back when you move out if there aren't any damages. If we give you all a raise, it will bankrupt the company. Then the CEO gives herself a nice $1 million bonus next year. This one is kinda specific. For context, there are 2 types of lawyer in the UK, solicitors, who build the case, and barristers, who present the case in court. I decided to go down the solicitor route, which requires you to do the legal practice course, LPC, and then 2 years on a training contract with a law firm. Since I did a non-law degree, I had to take the conversion course first. Now onto the bulls. The entire 2 years I was at law school, the careers department and the tutors only drummed one message into our heads: that the only way to have a successful career as a lawyer was to get a training contract with a law firm and qualify. That was all they talked about. I graduate, and the truth finally becomes clear. First, I learned that there are so few training contracts available that getting one is like winning the lottery, and the application process is a freaking rat race. Second thing I learned, this time through my successful friends, is that if you do win the lottery, working a training contract is such a thankless job, with long hours, way too much work and no freaking work-life balance. But the third and most crucial thing I learned, law firms are the least efficient way to make a successful career in law. I've been doing temp and contract work for a year now, and my career growth rate is way higher than I expected. Plus, I have a fantastic work-life balance. My salary is decent for someone a year out of college, and I'm working with some pretty amazing companies. I've met some amazing people who, like me, started in law but realized what a waste it was. What I'm getting at is, don't believe all the crap your careers department tells you about your career path. The world works very differently, and not necessarily for the worse. We here at insert high school name do not tolerate bullying. My school tolerated the relentless bullying of a kid for 6 years. It only stopped after the poor kid committed suicide. His sister was a friend of mine. She was and likely still is absolutely devastated by it. My sister-in-law was supposed to bring her kids and come for Christmas dinner. I wasn't planning on making a huge meal until my mother-in-law asked if they could all come. So I dropped a shitload of money at the store and spent all day cooking. When my husband's sister is late, his mom calls her. She claimed it was snowing with freezing rain and didn't want to drive in the bad weather. We live an hour away. It was unusually warm for December, about 56 degrees. I checked the weather app. Yep, it was 56 there, too. His mom said, well, sometimes the app is wrong, so I called my brother, who lives in the same city as the sister. Yep, it was 56 and sunny. A beautiful day. If you're going to lie to me, at least make it believable. Diarrhea, the flu, car trouble, etc. Nope, she lied about the weather. This legit made me mad just imagining it. We care about the work-life balance of our employees. My ex-husband and his girlfriend told me there was nothing going on during those weeks they stayed in a motel together. Her husband didn't buy it either. I was only on Tinder to see if you were. MHMM, that's why you filled out all the profile information. And no, I wasn't on Tinder. My single co-worker found him. That was a fun day at work. A few years ago I was watching a video about inventions that were accidentally invented. I think it was by Be Amazed or something. It mentioned Velcro and other stuff, but then it mentioned how tea was an accidental invention, caused by when a tea leaf flew into someone's glass of warm water. They drank it and it tasted fine. Believed this for years, until I looked on Wiki and it said that tea came around as medicine and was not accidentally invented nor discovered. And if you Google the origin of tea, that whole leaf fell into water crap is a legend folktale of some Asian emperor. It isn't fact. Winners never quit. When I was wanting to leave a job due to a toxic work environment, winners won't stay winners for long if they have a mental breakdown from stress and anxiety. Your call is important to us and we will be with you shortly. I love how if I call the sales department I wait for 30 seconds. If I call the customer service help department I wait for 2 hours. Screw you AT&T. Never again. Ignore the carpenter ants in your house. They'll eventually die off on their own without need of paying for an exterminator. There is no money in the budget for raises this year. I got that 1 year at my old job. The company then split $35 million in bonuses to upper management. They could have given everybody 10% and still split $33 million, but no, there was no money in the budget for raises. Meet a guy through Yahoo Personals way back when it was a thing. Talked for a few weeks, exchanged pictures, agreed on a date. He no-showed. I hopped online the next day to basically say WTF. He then proceeded to make up the most batshit insane sorry I've ever heard in my life. At the time, he claimed he was working for a large tobacco company and claimed to have a fairly senior role. He told me that when he was leaving the office for our date the entire office was raided by the FBI for money embezzlement. They handcuffed everyone and he was brought to jail and not allowed any calls. Claimed his father, who also worked for the company, had been stealing funds and he was wrapped up in it. I asked him where he was right now, and he claimed he was bailed out, but under house arrest and had FBI agents parked outside his house watching his every move. What the frick, man. If you thought I was too ugly when you saw me sitting there waiting for you to show, you could have just ghosted me. Don't insult my intelligence too. My ISP telling me my order is moving along. Any ISP customer service rep telling you that anything at all is currently happening after you request something. My ex-wife who had left me some years early calling me and saying how much she would like to see me again and how I was the only man she really loved. Turned out she was going to be evicted soon and wanted me to come rescue her. Told her nope, you are a terrible person, don't call me again. Homophobe. Someone who would be homeless if they weren't in a relationship. My aunt who is super into essential oils and natural forms of healing once told me that my brown eye isn't my natural eye color. She said they are quote the color of crap because my body is so full of toxins. Audi dealer with me looking at a CPOS6. Few years old. Arrest me, red color. Chrome rims. Red and black leather race seats. Upgraded engine. This one's a year older but doesn't have a ton of miles on it. It was bought here and obviously sold back here when she returned to buy her next vehicle. She was the sweetest old lady who only drove it to the grocery store and back. And probably to church. Even if that's true, it's such a cliche you can't actually tell people that. Nope. Then there is that. We will keep your resume on file if there is a something in the future that meets our needs. Something like that ends up being trashed and they never contact you again. Water memory. Secret ancient peoples of Tibet with average age of 160. Alkaline diet. Lost technology of Atlantis. That teacher was spun. I love you and I promise I will change. It's illegal for parents to drive with the interior light on. When I was explaining something about diabetes, a person responded by asking me if I knew that insulin medication was an artificial hormone that contained chemicals and that I should stop taking my insulin shots and instead treat my type 1 diabetes by changing to a vegan diet. Bonus points to the guy that was adamant that I could cure my Asperger's with yogurt. Not saying he's right, but I eat yogurt and I don't have Asperger's. He might be onto something. At my old job we had a security system installed. I was the manager. I watched it get installed. I asked the security guy if it was possible to see when other employees disarmed the alarm to verify it on their time cards to see if they were coming in late. He actually laughed at me and said there is no way to do that unless he sits in the parking lot in his car and watches for me. I'm sure some security systems are capable of this, but ours wasn't. I relay this info to my boss as a sort of hey, I had a great idea but it's not possible type thing. About a month later my boss tries to convince me that he could check the security system and see when people were coming in late. I remind him that I was there when the system was installed and I also remind him that it was my idea and it wasn't possible. He doubles down and tries to tell me he talked to the security guy and the security guy sends him an email each week of disarm times for the alarm. I mentioned this to the security guy next time I saw him and he told me my boss was full of crap. That blood is actually blue on the inside. It only turns red when it oxidizes with air. And yes, I am now aware that the whole point of blood is to transport oxygen. I now have a bachelor's in biochemistry to add to the irony. Pun intended. I always wondered how these people justified the color of blood after getting it drawn. That the baby was mine. A strange old guy who was a neighbor of my parents once told us a tale about a man he knew who was diagnosed with a terminal brain tumor. He was so distraught he decided to kill himself. He took his gun, pressed it against his head and bam, pulled the trigger. Wouldn't ya know it, not only did he survive, but he blew the tumor out of his head and was cured. Watermelon seeds grow in your stomach. This one broke me for years. My whole youth I was told that school is the best time of your life and right after graduation you basically just look forward to retire. Sadly, that is true of some people. Those people organized my 20-year high school reunion. That my grandma was going to recover. It wasn't a big deal. And not to take off work and drive 2 states away for nothing. My mother, the RN, told me this. She freaking knew. My grandma died the next day, and I didn't get to say goodbye to the woman who helped raise me. She was the kindest woman I've ever known. My mom later told me she'd asked for me right before she passed. That's awful. I really hope it was a misguided attempt to save you from distress. I before E except after C. I'll wash up tonight, my so. The bullies want a reaction. Just ignore them and they'll get bored with bullying you and leave you alone. We don't spar because our techniques are too deadly to do safely against a resisting opponent. No, you don't spar because your techniques don't work on a resistant opponent. Thank you for your interest in the position of Dart. We have decided to proceed with a different candidate. Job posting still listed. I would never cheat on you. Sadly, I believed it for 3 years. At school they made it seem that we were going to be offered free drugs at every corner of the street. Giving 100% at work will get your pay raised. Bull honky. I've been doing exactly that for 3 years and the only reason I got a raise is because I asked. Also, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Hand in hand with, you can do anything and be successful. More bull. My passion is art, photography, and making stuffed animals, but people who aren't furries or kinksters don't want to pay for any of it. Just tell me if there's any grugs on you. If you're honest I'll be able to help you out. The Po. You have been visited by the distinguished doggo of delicious delicacies. Comment tasty supper, hupper, and be blessed with delectable dishes for the next decade. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.